Earlier this week, it was announced that the advertising agency conglomerate Omnicom will move to acquire their rival Interpublic Group in a massive $13.3 billion deal, making them the largest advertising agency conglomerate in the world. And as a designer myself who has worked agency side, I'll tell you, this deal is going to have a huge impact, not just in advertising, but in design and the creative industry as a whole. This story was published by many news publications, but today we're going to look at the articles published by Axios and the New York Times. We're going to look at who Omnicom and IPG are, why this acquisition is happening, and what my thoughts are. But before we get into it, be sure to give this episode a like, leave a comment, and of course, subscribe. This is Ziggy the Designer, the show where we talk about the world of graphic design and the people that make it move. Design is all around us, so we might as well talk about it. Omnicom and Interpublic Group, otherwise known as IPG, are part of advertising's Big Four. Advertising's Big Four are, of course, Omnicom and IPG, and also Publicis and WPP. Lots of acronyms in ad agency land. Omnicom is the third largest conglomerate of the four, trailing behind Publicis and WPP. According to Axios, in 2023, Omnicom brought in $14.7 billion in revenue, whereas IPG brought in $10.9 billion respectively. A measly $10.9 billion. Omnicom owns some of the strongest creative and ad agencies in the industry, including BBDO, Critical Mass, and Wolf Olins. Among those agencies, and they've worked with brands such as Meta, BMW, and American Express. So Omnicom agencies have a lot of creative prowess. You'll find some of the most talented creatives in the world work at Omnicom agencies. I've had the pleasure of working alongside Wolf Olins on the brand side, and they are some of the brightest creatives I've ever met. On the other side of this acquisition, IPG is home to agencies such as FCB, Weber Shandwick, and McCann. McCann, a historic agency, by the way. Those agencies have worked with brands such as Walmart, H&M, and Verizon. So, nothing to turn your nose up at with IPG here. So why is this acquisition happening then? The thing with IPG is that, they've worked with these big, storied brands, but recently they've been heavily underperforming for their size. The New York Times reports that they lost their accounts with BMW and Verizon all the way back in 2022. And according to Axios, since about 2015, their stock price has remained relatively flat compared to WPP and Omnicom, which is a reflection of IPG's value as a company. IPG actually just sold two of their agencies to private equity firms. So in a time when their competitors are growing, IPG is remaining stagnant and losing value in comparison. According to the New York Times, IPG has been looking for buyers all year. What this says to me, at least, is that IPG doesn't expect to gain any more value, right? They're probably projecting losses in the future. Might as well cash out before things go south. Looking at Omnicom, their CEO, John Wren, said in a statement to the New York Times that this acquisition would harness the significant opportunities created by new technologies in this era of exponential change. And you can throw around corporate lingo all you like. The fact of the matter is that Omnicom's goal for a while now has been expansion. The same New York Times article referenced their attempt to merge with Publicis back in 2013. That merger, of course, did not go through. But this time around, it sounds like Omnicom has been doing their homework. In a statement to analysts, Wren said, "The lessons learned a decade ago are not going to be repeated." Again, you can throw around corporate lingo all you want. It sounds like Omnicom wants to expand so they can get a larger share of the market, not to tackle these technological challenges, as Wren has been saying, or whatever corporate virtue signaling that they're trying to pull here. And it just so happens that this new attempt to acquire a competitor is happening ahead of Donald Trump's second term as president of the United States. Trump being incredibly business friendly, right? We're anticipating that he'll be much more friendly to mergers and acquisitions. So odds are This deal will go through despite all of the antitrust red flags. This will make Omnicom the largest agency conglomerate in the world, and it wouldn't even be close. Not only will they own the advertising agencies, they will own the media companies, they will own communications and PR agencies, they will own design and branding and creative agencies. You see where I'm going here? So what do I think? This should have been Omnicom's moment to show the industry how talented they are, that despite the technological challenges that lie ahead, they'll rise up to the occasion. But we didn't get that. In the face of a challenge, Omnicom was too scared to compete. They didn't want to innovate. They didn't want to play the game. This is a pivotal moment for the big agencies. We are in a time where in-house teams are getting bigger and better. And I know agency people hate hearing that, but that's the truth. Smaller agencies are starting to produce more award-winning work. And creatives are just flat out fed up with the old school way of thinking that these ad agencies have been thriving on. And Omnicom is showing us why, despite having incredibly talented creative teams, their leadership still fails to surpass Publicis and WPP on their own merit. And I feel bad for the agency creatives that are going to be impacted by this. Odds are there will be layoffs. And the job market is already tough as is for creatives. I was in the job market for 6 months before accepting my current role, and 6 months in this market is pretty short. And it's unfortunate, right? Because as we talked about earlier, these are some of the most talented creatives in the world. They deserve better. That's all I have for you. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Be sure to give this episode a like, subscribe, and share. In fact, share this with your agency friend. I'm sure they have some thoughts on this. I've been Ziggy the Designer. If there are 2 things you need to know about me, it's that 1, I love design. And 2, I'm very opinionated. I'll talk with y'all later. Bye-bye.